Hello everybody, Carlos Alfaro here from Arizona Talks, and today I have a very special guest, Valeria Aponte from Telemundo, Arizona. Thank you so much for being part of our Freedom of the Press panel today.
No, thank you so much for inviting me to talk about this topic that is extremely important now more than ever.
Absolutely. Could you tell me a little bit about what we discussed, especially your experience in covering some of these stories that hit hard at home, right? A lot of us have our own personal views and our own personal experiences, and so sometimes news can hit very personally. Could you tell me about the balance that you have between how you feel about an issue personally and then reporting on it for the rest of us to see?
No, definitely, and it's something that we focused on talking about here today for over an hour. And at least what I try to bring to the table was the importance of informing our community that this job, we do it for them, and it's not about giving our opinion because we're not paid, and our job is not to give our opinion. Our job is to inform our community with facts, with resources, give them a voice to share, because sometimes, and it happens a lot in minority groups, they're not being listened to by politicians or other officials in high positions. So the story is not about us, it's about them. And I think that's what I try to mention today about the importance of being neutral. Of course, there are some topics that hit close to home. I'm a Latina, I'm a woman, I'm from Puerto Rico. So there's been times where it's been hard to keep my opinion, but I know that at the end of the day, it's not my job to tell people how to think. My job is to inform them. My job is to give them an outlet to express how they're feeling. And that's what I always keep in mind every time I go into my job. And it's always thinking about the community.
Absolutely. And we also talked about the protections, legal protections, constitutional protections for journalists, the press in our country, and how important that is. I'm from Mexico myself, and I know that in my country there are some reporters that do get persecuted for what they write, what they think. Have you ever, in your experience, seen that need for the protection, the legal protection for journalists to do that, and are we lucky?
We're definitely lucky and blessed to have the First Amendment, and that's something that when reporting and sometimes when being criticized or disrespected or tried to be censored, because it does happen, and it happens. We have the First Amendment for that, and at the end of the day, your job is to tell the truth. And I don't want people to take advantage of the First Amendment thinking, I have the First Amendment to say whatever I want. Yes, but you shouldn't be lying. You shouldn't be saying things that are going to affect our community, that are going to confuse our community. So while the First Amendment is truly something that we're truly blessed to have, especially as journalists and also as community members, no matter where you come from, but you live here in the United States, you have to be very careful. We talked a lot about those outlets that cover news, but are really just spreading lies. And then we have to go and explain to our community, this is not the truth. Please don't follow that, because we're getting this information. For example, if it's about the pandemic, we're getting this information from the Arizona Health Department. We're getting this information from doctors who are dealing with and helping survive COVID patients. So it's very important to be very careful when you use your First Amendment right to not just say whatever someone told you and not verify if it's true or not, and be very careful in how you say those things and through what platforms, because we talk a lot about social media, about the pros and cons. One of the pros is being connected with your community, being informed about what's going on in an instant. Sometimes we don't have to wait till the 5 p.m. newscast. We can find out at 11:01 when we got that information, but it's also something that can easily spread the misinformation, and that's what we really have to be careful about.
It sounds like with great freedom comes great responsibility,
yes.
Right? That's something that we hit on that I wasn't expecting to, but it's something that we keep coming back to, the responsibility of a free citizen to say what's right, to look for that information, and to really look at the facts. Finally, I wanted to talk to you about the importance about speaking about the freedoms that we have, and speaking about civil dialogue. Day to day, we see the news change, and we can maybe miss, our how lucky we are in not even thinking about the freedoms that we have. So could you tell me why it's important to do civil debate, civil dialogue like this?
It's extremely, extremely important. I think you can have a conversation with people who don't believe what you believe, have different opinions. Let's put a Democrat and a Republican, and not fight and listen to each other. I think the more and more time passes by and I see different scenarios, even with my own family, we're sometimes forgetting about the importance of listening to one another and analyzing, okay, why is that person thinking that way? Why are they coming up with those conclusions? But it has to be both ways. And it's so important, Carlos. There's so many topics, and I want to say it breaks my heart that people don't discuss in a civil way or at all because they're called uncomfortable topics, or they're called, it's always been that way. But just because it's always been that way, it doesn't mean it's right. You know, for example, if we talk about racism, it's wrong, plain and simple. This is not about looking for what's right or wrong about it. Racism is wrong. But a lot of people don't talk about it. And that's why it keeps happening. And that's why we see these demonstrations of people saying enough is enough. We shouldn't be getting killed or being discriminated for the color of our skin. Even when it comes to the gender rights of women still not having the same equality as men, a lot of people say it's uncomfortable, but it shouldn't be uncomfortable. It is what we're living with. And everything starts with a conversation for us to see a change. And it's all about keeping an open mind. And we deal a lot with that, of people that are very, this is what I think, that's it. And then you ask them, but why is it that you think that way? No, because this is what the law, but that's not right. That's not the way it is. And I think you need to be open to accepting that, maybe what you've been taught all your life was wrong. Maybe you are causing harm, And I think it's so important now more than ever, I think at homes. I talk about it a lot with parents when I've done stories, for example, about bullying. Talk to your kids about bullying on the table. Listen to how they're feeling. In both ways, if your kid's the one doing the bullying or if your kid is a victim, it has to be something talked about in a civil manner, because sometimes when you get attacked, that's when you put that wall up and you're like, you just don't want to listen.
Yeah, so it seems that we have to uncover that and make platforms for it. Well, I wanted to thank you for making a platform here today and for being on our panel for Freedom of the Press, and thank you for taking your time.
No, of course, it's such an honor, and I hope it keeps happening again, and I'll be here.
Thank you so much, and if you want to see more conversations like these, please go to arizonatalks.org. Thank you. Hi, I'm Carlos Alfaro from Arizona Talks, and if you like conversations like these, be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and at our website at arizonatalks.org.